What's up, Dudes and Doodles, and welcome back for another art adventure. If you're new here, hi, my name's Danny. Welcome to the channel. In today's video, I got the chance to sit down and interview a new friend, who is also a content creator. So while I ask some questions and get to know this creator a little better, I will also be drawing them in my cartoon style. So go ahead and grab yourself a snack, something to draw with, and let's make some art. Today's guest. Wait. Mystery guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Hello, Dudes and Doodles. Thank you for having me on your art channel. I love being a part of your Discord, so thank you so much for that. My name is John McDonald. On Instagram, I currently go by stardewfarmer. I have a Twitter, which is John M, and then a whole bunch of numbers because I can't figure out how to change it to something nor something I like.
Welcome, John, to Dudes and Doodles, and thank you for helping me with this video. Can you help us get to know you a little better? Tell us about yourself. What are your hobbies and your interests?
Um, so I can tell you a little bit about myself. Um, I love baking. I find that I'm not as good at many types of visual arts, but I definitely love baking. So I'm really good at making brownies. I have some really fun queer arts, including I have the Tom of Finland stuff that Tashin put out. I have a really nice growing collection of queer comics, and I also really love the Power Rangers and Super Sentai.
Baking is always fun. I love myself some homemade cookies and brownies. The world is a big place. Can you tell us what part of the globe you're from?
I agree that the world is a big place, and I am from the Pacific Northwest, so that is on the west coast of the United States. I am 2.5 to 3 hours from the ocean, depending upon how quickly I ride in a car to the ocean. We have a bus that goes out there once a day, which is kind of nice too.
That sounds cool. I've always wanted to go to the ocean, but I've never really had the chance to do so. Definitely something on my bucket list. What's something that you would recommend me to do if I were to ever come to your neck of the world?
If you are visiting where I live in the Pacific Northwest, one thing to know is that we do have kind of kitschy stuff that people will probably tell you, like they'll tell you to go to, say, Powell's Books or Voodoo Donuts, but there are much better versions of those in town. One thing that I really love is this little toy shop called Billy Galaxy, which is near Powell's. Um, I also think we have one of the better art museums, probably in the Pacific Northwest, in my town. And so, like, people will say Voodoo's donuts are really great, and I think there's a really great use of aesthetic and iconography. But I'm much a bigger fan of, say, Coco's Donuts, which is more cake and less sweet. And even if they have the bizarre toppings, they just make a better donut all around.
Cake donuts are my favorite. I love a good plain chocolate cake donut with chocolate icing, but who am I kidding? Anything food related, and I'm game. So, what kind of content do you make?
I call myself a queer artist because the idea of being LGBT and putting that into my art almost comes before the art itself. For me, I do a lot of playwriting, but I also have an audio drama that I'm currently working on the second season of. I've done a little bit of social media work for people, which is a lot of narrative storytelling. I've done fan fiction in the past in varying iterations on varying websites. Um, and so the kind of content I make is kind of bigger and more real world than YouTube stuff, but I found YouTube really helpful to do. I've done some Halloween videos, which are really fun, where I basically did a fake serialized drama featuring Halloween monsters. And I got a whole bunch of people together for that a couple years back, and that was a lot of fun. I also love fashion art, Project Runway, Boulet Brothers Dragula. I really enjoy looking at how art can happen in 3D in the real world. Um,
I think that's how we actually started following each other over on Instagram. I remember reading some of your Halloween stories, which I fell in love with. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got started?
so, how did I get started? I got started with Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan fiction back in 2007. So many, many, many moons ago. In fact, my fanfiction.net account is still running. And it went through many permutations of Supernatural and CSI and Oz and Glee. But it was really important for me to start with Buffy. I have a really fun kind of adventurous side writing in, with magic. In fact, my Kickstarter, that by the time you see this video will probably be out, um, is a gay retelling of kind of the Cinderella mythology. And I'm very excited to kind of present that and to crowdfund that because all art is collaborative, but theater definitely more so than some other forms. And basically, I did fan fiction almost for a decade before I branched off into more collaborative forms of art. I loved doing the novella, even with all the time it took, but it ended up feeling really lonely. Even though I had people leaving comments regularly, I felt I wanted more out of my art and I felt very isolated. And so I really had to push into new fields to really become a better artist and become a more fully realized artist and human.
Is there anyone who inspires you in particular?
Um, a lot of people. Stephen Sondheim inspires me. Neil Gaiman, Steve Orlando, who is a really great current comic artist. My friends like Magnus L. Alexander. Rosif has been inspiring me with that really great Cyclops Wolverine thing they've done. I'm always surprised by what kind of inspires me because I think of drag kings like Landon Sider, who are working the gender binary. I think about my favorite movie musical, Little Shop of Horrors. Um, and that kind of leads to me thinking about how Jim Henson and the Muppets has influenced how I do humor and how I kind of bend the different boxes that I bend. And so the idea about inspiration is that so many people do. You know, a month from now, I could be talking about the Black Lady sketch show, which I really love, or I could be talking about High Maintenance, or I could be talking about Starro. You know, it's really hard to say, and that's really great about pop culture now is how much can inspire you, even though it can be overwhelming. Um,
Let's go ahead and take an intermission and talk about what's going on in the background. I am using my Samsung Galaxy Tab S6 and a free to use program called Ibis Paint. It's my go to program for digital drawing, and I can use it on my tablet and smartphone. I hope they one day expand to the PC platform so I can completely do away with Photoshop. So, since John said he got started with Buffy the Vampire fan fiction, I wanted to pay tribute to that, and I used a reference picture of Buffy to draw his pose. And because his art form is writing, I also wanted to give him a giant pen instead of a wooden stake. I also wanted to tie in the Little Shop of Horrors, so in the background, I gave him his own Audrey plant. I really like the way the finished piece turns out. Now, let's get back to the interview. John, what does a typical day look like for you? Do you have a routine you like to stick to?
a typical day for me is there's no typical day. For me, a typical week is more accurate because I structure things out um, by kind of half days. I try to remind myself to eat at least twice a day, and I always have um, a big tea bottle near myself so I stay hydrated because I find I get grumpy when I don't stay hydrated. Um, and so I'm working on audio dramas and podcasts and plays and things. So it's really about I have a list of this is the stuff to do, this is the stuff that I'm doing today, and that list keeps me very sane and very on track to make sure I produce something. But really, it's not a typical day, but a typical week for me, honestly.
Staying on track is always a good thing. I set myself a schedule for this year, and one of my goals is to actually stick to that plan, which, as always, life gets in the way sometimes. Do you have any special plans for 2022? And where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
My special plans for 2022 include a fully funded Kickstarter for Cobblestone Kingdom and getting to work on getting the Gay Cinderella work done. I've got a couple of special projects, one I can't talk about currently that I'm very excited about. But I am working on something more virtual that's very interactive, um, and it's going to be a really fun time for a lot of people, is my hope. And depending upon how it's received, that will lead into the next question of where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? I've always wanted to be an artist that has done really great work that lends itself so that I can go to different Comic Cons and have a booth and have people meet me and want to talk about my work. I've always wanted to get to a place where it's not about the fame, but it's about that I've done this work and I built the portfolio of things, the portfolio of plays, the audio dramas, and have people be able to respond to that and kind of want to be part of these worlds and universes because I like when people collaborate and play in my worlds. I think it's a big honor. It's a lot of fun. Next 5 years, I'd love to have a couple of shows that have gone up off Broadway. I'd love to have, my secret project for this year become really popular. The podcast I've started, that by the time you hear this should be an episode 2 or 3, hopefully, um, get really, really well known because people like what I have to say and how I talk and how I move. Um, and so my hope is just to become the well-known version of the artist I currently am. That is my hope. Um,
The podcast, Everything is Gay, Even the Straight Stuff, has become one of my go to listens if I'm not listening to an audiobook while drawing or editing videos. So thank you for putting that out there. I love how you and Magnus click. And of course, the sound of his voice is like music, but that's not why we're here. Do you have any advice for future creators?
my advice for future creators is to study and to know what motivates you to work, not in the sense of like getting it done day to day. That's important, but to kind of know and to really study intelligently about the things that matter to you and to be fearless. When you first start out, when I first started out, I envisioned myself as like the future Joss Whedon. So that's why I started doing Buffy fanfic, also because Angel Xander was like my slash pairing. But um, I learned that it was a lot harder than it seemed as to how much experience Joss had. And of course, we know now he's not a great guy. So I don't really talk about that much anymore. Um, but I think it's really important to do everything in your arts with intent and to realize that it's not going to be perfect right away. And Neil Gaiman is really smart about this. He talks about this in his art practice of how it took a long time for him to sound like himself. So in a way, just do it, even if it sounds like someone else. Also learn what inspires you that's not naturally something you'd associate with it. Like if you're a writer or an artist and you're feeling really stuck, learn about the other ways that kind of feed your soul and your creative battery. I always talk to people that like to do anime, and I say, you know what you should do? Take a day off, go to the zoo, draw the tigers or the monkeys or the penguins. And you find that working kind of out in the wild, even for a couple hours and taking a break and doing something different, really helps to motivate you. Also, don't be afraid to take a break. There is no shame in having to take a day off or half a day off. That's a heavy part of some people's creative process. Stephen Sondheim was famous for napping in the middle of the day and getting up to write a song and finish a song. So don't hesitate to learn the rhythm of you, because what works for me may not work for you as an artist. As long as you're attempting to produce something and you're trying to push through, and it's not just the second it doesn't work, you stop completely, um, you'll get there. And that's really important to think about.
That's excellent advice. Thank you for that. Do you have a favorite game you like playing?
Dungeons and Dragons is really fun. I love D&D and Shadowrun. I have Robin Morningwood, which is really fun. It's a kind of a Robin Hood style dating sim, which is fun. My friends play a lot of, I think it's called Goose Goose Duck, where it's like Among Us, but you're a goose and there are ducks. People really seem to enjoy that. I have a lot of fun doing that. Um, yeah, I'm sure I have other things, but this is where I'm like, oh god, I'm looking forward to Pokemon Arceus, which is really cool. I have the Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid set. I'm a big fan of Clue style games as well. It's like Bob's Burgers Clue was a Christmas present I got. I really enjoyed it. Um,
Yes, I've been playing the new Pokemon game. I actually took a week off of drawing and making videos just so that I could find time to play it. Do you have any parting words?
be kind to yourself. We are really hard on ourselves as a society and as people, and it leads to a lot of anger. Um, but kindness goes a long way. Always look for joy because it's so easy to look for other things, but joy is what's going to get you through. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about my work. I'm coming to you from the Golden Girls kitchen. That's my background here.
That we've come to the end of another adventure. I hope you enjoyed this video. Down below will be a link to John's social medias and mine also if you'd like to stalk us and see what else we're doing. Don't forget to like this video, comment down below, and while you're there, go ahead and click that subscribe button and ring that bell so you get notified each time I upload a new video. And until next time, happy drawing!
I'm staying strong, need to move on to be what I want. I'll keep dreaming on. I'm staying strong, need to move on to be what I want. I'll keep dreaming on.
This is John McDonald, and I hope you have a great day.